out here on location, about to crack. I'm not sure how far, but I'm gonna give it a go. A longer distance run today. Not that that's particularly exciting, however, it is absolutely pictures. I thought it was going to be sunrise now, but as ever, cloud cover dictates, which is a bit annoying. So just gonna chill out for a sec and get cracking a bit. But today we're going to look at a few key considerations when you're planning a route to get the most out of it. Things to look out for during, how to start a run that's a little bit longer, so some little strategies to work on pacing and kind of mental side of it, because it is quite taxing for people that want to go out and run a bit further. So we'll cover all of that, so let's go. Okay, so we're off. The first things I like to do when I start any sort of something long is to just walk the first maybe 100-150 meters before I get into a little jog, and that's sort of my gauge. It's just like a warm-up that you do in the gym or wherever. It's your exertion gauge, how you're feeling, whether you're feeling light, heavy, kind of receptive. Obviously it's super early morning, and how you've assimilated what you've eaten, etc. So all of those factors. And this is all part of that training and that consolidation effect. Okay, so we're into a little bit of a jog now, and I don't know whether you can hear, but the cadence is super high intentionally, and this is just going to get me, understanding kind of what the feet are doing, and again slowly building the heart rate up. We don't want to be overstriding and trying to go too fast. It's a nice sort of pitter-patter effect of the legs straight underneath the hips. Try and keep that good solid neutral running action, and yeah, it all goes to shit when we go up the climb. But it sounds good on paper, doesn't it? Hey. Okay, so that's mile 1 done, about 11 minutes. Again, super easy in terms of pace. However, the first mile has about maybe 250-300 feet of climbing in there. It's not, obviously not a lot at all, but it's enough to just drop that average pace down straight away. And this is one of the things about trying to put in some longer distance training runs, is that you can't be looking at pace the whole time. That is not an indicator of progression on what we're trying to elicit today. This is more about getting out there, strategizing the run walk sections, and then building on that endurance. That's it. Simple. So mile 2, that was 11 minutes and 2 seconds. Again, it probably had about 150 to 200 feet climbing in there, so steady away. Tip number 2 is ensure when you are in the first few miles, unless you're in a race, ensure that you build that mental buy-in to the run you're about to do, and that is controlled by pace, energy expenditure, and sort of psychological approach to those first few miles. If you go too quick, you start to flap and panic, and then it's kind of a spiral from there. So yeah, tip number 2. Okay, so mile 3, and tip number 3, what you're wearing, your footwear, what kit you're carrying, with an emphasis on the longer run here. Now I've got a little belt set up and there, dry bag in there in case, no gels, no water, no pack, good footwear. It's all I need. Training the body in a different way and making sure that you're fit for task and your kit is needed. What kit you need is for the role that you're trying to do. just elaborating on mile 3, tip 3. If you go out there all the time and try and do your long runs with loads of water, heavily laden, too much fuel, too many gels, all these sorts of complexities that you might hear from podcasters, YouTubers, influencers, there we go, yeah. Stop. Train your mind and your body together. Pack light, fight light, the old saying, and go through it and use your exertion as your marker. Mile 4, that was 10:22. Tip number 4, and probably the most important, and that we can all relate to, I imagine, is knowing when or if you're going to need a shit. Okay, not going to put it any other way. Usually within the first few miles your body takes a turn for the worse. Making sure that you're prepared with the necessary hygiene materials, i.e. bog roll wipes, a bag to put it in, will save you the world of hurt. So if you do go and have 2 espressos pre-long run with no food, or you've eaten a vindaloo the night before, just factor that into your planning. Okay, prior preparation, all that. Yep, battle prep. Okay, so a quick update. I'm off the main forest tracks because I had a couple of blokes probably about 500 meters in front of me, okay, about the last mile. They then obviously took a tactical bush stop together, yep, waited for me to go past, and then proceeded now to try and catch me up, you know, concerted effort to try and, you know, follow me up at the 6 o'clock position, which obviously sounds a little bit ominous considering they had a bush stop together. So I took a new bearing, so to speak, that's not a euphemism, and went into the woods. It's pretty nice, far more enjoyable, to be honest. Nice little trail. So I'm just going to cut across and then pick up the track further down, but I think it's a little bit weird. But as I said, runners are weird. Runners are weird people. Simple as. Anyway, mile 5, tip number 5, and probably one of the most important if you're wanting to maintain enjoyment and flexibility with your running progression generally, is route variability. So the variation of terrain that you run on. Yep, maybe not this. Okay, but planning a route that has some hills, some elevation. You can change your gait, the speed at which you're running. You can practice on your hiking skills. You can do single track work where it zones in your concentration. You can go through bogs and shit like that. Well, I kind of went round it, but you know what I mean. And it's stimulating. That is one of the biggest things that's going to help you, in particular on when you're out for longer durations. Otherwise it's just boring, it's just shit, it's just suffering. Yeah, enjoy that. Fuck my life. Ah, bloody hell. Fuck. Nice little stackaroo there. Serves me right for being a fucking bell cheese. Bloody influencer in the wild.com there. So a little bit of a rundown. I don't have a clue where I'm going, which is fantastic. You know what? Constantly staring at a map or looking at your phone. Check this bad boy out. There we go. Fucking hell, that was about to go. You know, wouldn't recommend, right, if you're not very good at your bearings. You get confused and a bit dizzy. However, if you build up some of the skill set, some of the attributes and some of the awareness, I guess, you'll be right. And yeah, I'm just following this track. That's it, just following this track. No idea where it's actually going. I know it's supposed to be going west, but anyway. Okay, the endless forest track. Okay, mile 6, tip number 6, and it goes back to my last about not knowing where I was, but not panicking, falling over, not panicking, and it's the basic mnemonic survival. Okay, so you can write these down. Okay, size up the situation. S, undue haste makes waste. Remember where you are is the R. Value life or vanquish fear, whichever way around it is. Improvise, value life or vanquish fear. Act like your natives and learn the basics. Okay, now if you can apply all of these things when you're out on the long run, or you're out doing anything that's arduous, endurance based, remote, and it has that little bit of uncertainty in there, just look at those words and use them to your advantage. You don't need to panic. You don't need to, unless it's essential, go up and over that mountain when the weather's coming in. Undue haste makes waste. Don't make hasty decisions. What I've got here is, I was heading west, as I previously mentioned, and I knew that my catching feature was this track, okay, heading north to south. Okay, funny old thing, I looked at the track on the map, okay, and I thought, fucking hell, it's there. Look at this. Oh my goodness, shock horror. There's a track. Okay, I now know that I'm close to the western perimeter. Okay, and now heading south. All right, I know that I'm gonna be hitting my next feature based off map memory and based off, I thought I was heading down the track then, I was staring at my ugly grid. Okay, based on map memory and a little bit of I'll find it in the end sort of mentality. Okay, so use those tips, a bit of a longer one, tip 6, okay, but probably one of the most important. Okay, this doesn't look that steep, but it's pretty gips. So came around quick, that one. Mile 7, tip number 7 is inclines and what to do and what not to do on them. Now, what you need to stop doing is listening to bullshit advice. These people out there that are giving you these hacks, selling courses on how to hike and use poles, like, come on, how far away have we got from, you know, experience and intuitive learning? And don't get me wrong, sometimes using poles is a skill, especially assembling them and putting them away when the ground changes quite significantly, i.e. from trail path like this to rocky scrambles. Yes, I get that, but come on, you don't need someone to teach you that. Learn how to do it yourself. Anyway, rant over. Hills, when you're going up, don't be afraid to hike them. Conserve your energy. Fuel on the uphill, okay? Don't be tempted to run it. Of course, you can do little strategies like 20 meters up at your pace that you went into the hill at, and that will obviously allow you to get a bit of ground. It might give you a bit of an edge if you're racing and you can overtake maybe 1 or 2 people in that time. But you've got to conserve energy, right? You're not trying to do a time trial here. You're trying to build capacity and tolerance. And this is where you can learn how to take on fuel, learn what fuel works for you, get the poles out, erect the poles, should I say, in inverted commas, yeah? And that is where you're going to build these systems and these reliable habits that you can use to enjoy more of your longer training sessions, get more out of them. Tip number 7. Quick tip. Don't drink from water sources like this. Just saying. Mile 8. Tip number 8 is navigation. Now, one thing I'm a big advocate of is learning how to navigate, okay? Without question. This doesn't mean you need to be a wizard at it, okay? You don't need to know, massive aspects of this ridge line, this arête drops from here to here, the topographical information of that grade 3 scramble versus that, are we able to get up there with or without kit? Are we doing it in the winter in ice? Like, you don't need to know that necessarily unless you want to go into that environment. Some people, and most people, complicate navigation so much because they feel like they need to be amazing at it, okay? This, okay, is just a little bit of a three-pronged, okay, route off this dead-end track, okay? Obviously you've got right, middle, and you've got left, okay? Now, if I hadn't looked at a map at all before coming here, right, I would be pretty uncertain of where to go. It's a kind of potluck, right? But because I have studied a little bit of the map, just given myself, okay, I'm going to take the west side, okay, hit that catch feature like we spoke about. I'm going to break left, south, and then got to cut back in because I'm doing this. The route looks like this. It's kind of a figure of 8. I know that I need to now, okay, be moving back towards the kind of southwesterly direction. Okay, so obviously if you think about it, I know that this direction, all right, is south. Okay, I want to be kind of going southwesterly. Now, yes, of course, that can be open to interpretation because that track on the right hand side could then cut across the other track, again, making me need to check the map again. However, I've only checked the map once or maybe twice in this whole route, just little kind of like nav checks as I'm going. And I know that when I got to this section, I'd call this a vulnerable point, or a point where I need to either stop and take a map check or be able to run it on the go. I know that I need to take the right hand track because I've looked at it. I thought this is an area where I need to take the map out. I know that I want to take this direction and I should be taking the right hand track. So I'm just speeding up and saving time, and this is building on confidence. Okay, now good little tip number 8, map study. Learn the very basics of navigation. This again, deceptive. It's absolutely howling little climb from the kind of bottom of the forestry, kind of little streams and rivers that were running in the low ground. We're now pushing up this hill, but again, this isn't a tip because we're not yet at mile 9, but it's too hilly to run, and it's also that awkward pace where you can still maintain a kind of 15-minute mile pace. You're still at kind of 4 miles an hour, a little bit over 4 miles an hour here, but I'm able to talk, recoup, perfect distance of hill, take on some water, take on some fuel, look around, which is haven't really done much of today because we've kind of been swarmed by the forest. But look around, enjoy it, think about why you're doing it, why, you know, what you've done, why you're doing it, and give yourself a bit of a chuck up. Although we're not done yet, it could all go Pete Tong, break a leg on the last 200 metre sprint. Mile 9, ramping up a bit. Tip number 9, okay, and this is encompassing a couple of points really, is try and aim to do your longer sessions on your own. Doing them on your own is going to elicit a very different adaptation, okay? You will end up understanding what your body is doing in real time without distractions. You will be able to deal with how your body's reacting without being put off by someone else next to you. Now sometimes a lot of people have people with them for morale, bit of confidence, somebody there to enjoy it with. Great, not doubting that at all. But when you're wanting to build the necessary capacity mentally, this is why I always do these sessions on my own, because I can't shy away from the pain, right? I don't want to avoid it, I want to deal with it there and then. And again, harnessing these little strategies to use if I need to in a race scenario, or when it gets comfortable again in the future. Tip number 9. Just want to showcase this setup I got here. Look at this. My little dump pooch dry bag there in case it rains. Not carrying a bag. Little belt that a good old mate gave to me before. Maybe I should have given it back to him, but hey yo. Banging bit of kit. No bag. It feels nice not carrying a bag. Those water bottles jungling around. I never had pecs that big anyway, so I don't want to be carrying an extra pair of them around. There we go. Check him out. Cheers for the heads up, fella. On your e-bike, fella. Cracking your own detail. Right, I'm going to catch up with him. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Right. Hey! Hey! Up! Very gay. However, very good little strategy to use. I said that word a lot today, haven't I? But using that count, yep, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. What it allows you to do, okay, is stay within a box. Now, we all know planes of motion, planes of movement. You've got your sagittal box, forward and back, your pane of glass, frontal movement, transverse movement. You're trying to keep your body articulating within that pane of glass, okay? What it helps you do is when I'm having that check, 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 check of a pace, obviously you're matching your cadence, it's quite high turnover, but it's also doing is it's allowing my rise and fall of my head and the kind of oscillation of movement to be controlled, and I'm not shifting my hips outside of that box. I'm not dumping my head down and up by big overstriding, and it's a nice little tip. Hey, you definitely don't need to join the military, okay, to use those little tactics. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mile 10, tip number 10. And I'm well aware by now I've completely wrapped on telling you what pacing I've been doing, but who cares? So tip number 10, get out of your own head. That is an essential bit of advice when you're hurting, right? And you're out on these long runs, and you are hurting, remember, you chose to do this. Never lose sight of the fact that you chose to inflict this pain on yourself, and it is a privilege. It doesn't matter how hard it gets, okay, embrace it. You're young enough, or you're able enough to be able to do it. And speaking from experience here, when it is taken away from you, okay, and you can't do it without tying too much of an identity to running, that is a very important tip. You miss it more than anything, really, in a sad, pathetic, feeble way. But it's true. You miss that dopamine hit. You miss that freedom. I think that's the big one. You miss the freedom to explore, see new places from a different perspective. It's not the same on a bike. Let's have it right. Okay. And you're building that massive tolerance, that capacity, that robustness. All of these factors should outweigh the acute pain that you're feeling. Everything's going to pass when you're on this long run. You've got to get out your head and not become a victim to the pain. All right, harder than you think to do, but stop dripping. Basically, stop fucking dripping and start saying hello to people when you're out on your runs. Hey, how's it going? All right. If they don't say hello to you back, just be like, prick. I'm joking, don't say that. You know, rant over. Mile number 10. All right, getting there, bye. Getting there, aren't we, bye? Not far away now. Probably in for another 11-mile tip before we hit the finish line. Haven't fallen over yet. Haven't tripped over. Found myself naked in a gorse bush. So, winner. Mile number 11. Finish with some overspeed work. Okay, sorry, tip 11. Finish with some overspeed work. Try and find a little section at the end of your run where you are increasing your cadence, your pace, simulating that neurological adaptation. Okay, whether that's a downhill, whether you're increasing your stride length, you're visualizing the finish line with all those supporters. You get run over by another e-bike. Okay, some pest on his time trial bike. Don't get me wrong, he's probably a nice guy, but this is going to really aid your ability to finish stronger in races, out on training runs, because you know you've got it in the bank. So I hope you enjoyed that. 11 miles, well actually it's over that. Okay, but I'm just going to stop short of 12. So you're not going to have a tip number 12. I'm kind of all out of ideas, to be honest, but you get the gist. Okay, enjoy. Lots of love to that.